Yeah, of course.
To kick things off, Barney, why don't you introduce yourself? Share a little bit about your story before you got to K-Swiss.
All right. Thank you. Thank you for having me. Great to be here. And I'm already seeing some good sneakers around. Yeah, you too. And there's a guy over there that's
I
got
got
some.
one too.
Yeah, you. And there's a guy over there who's got some K Swiss I never even saw in real life. That he went to France to get. So I appreciate you. I run K Swiss. It's a 50-year-old sneaker brand based in LA. And I'm born and raised in England, as you could tell. And I've actually now spent about 50% of my life in England and 50% here. I moved over when I was young for a job opportunity, and just always been really career driven. Was lucky enough to always a marketer, and lucky enough to get myself into the sneaker industry at some point way back when, and have just fell in love with it, and have sort of worked my way up through there and took over. Long story short, took over K Swiss as the president about 3 years ago, and really took over an old brand that had like a lot of good bones, but was really not relevant anymore, and had gathered a lot of cobwebs and was in financial trouble, and have really worked on turning the brand around. And I think that's where you find me today, still in the middle of that struggle, to be honest, but having had some good results as well.
Mm-hmm. I have a question for the audience. How many of you have heard of K-Swiss before?
Oh yeah.
That's awesome, right?
Yeah, it is awesome, but everybody's a lot of people have heard of K Swiss. It's more, and then if you ask the second question of who's bought K Swiss recently.
Okay, let's see who's bought K-Swiss recently.
Okay, less hands, right?
Okay.
So it's one, so I think that's the situation is that I sort of took over, which is a lot of brand awareness with a heritage brand, but not a lot of necessarily relevance today. And that's kind of the stuff I've been working on, is how do you make a legacy brand mean something again today and be worthy of somebody's, money, disposable income.
Right. Now let's talk about something awesome that you've done lately, and that's partnering with Gary Vee and the entrepreneurship push.
Yeah.
Do you guys know Gary Vee? Yeah. So why don't you tell us how that happened? Like, why Gary?
Yeah, so, well, it really came from this need for, I think, great creativity comes from desperation. Okay, so you put your best work in when you're really up against the wall. Like if you're fat and happy, you don't need to try that hard. When you're desperate, like, and took over and was like, I know, like, I got to do something really different here to make this work. So, one of the things I realized early on is the incumbent brands in my industry were really big, really powerful. Okay, and you may all face this yourselves. In my industry, it's Nike, Adidas, Puma. Like, these are mega billion-dollar brands with great product, great tons of marketing dollars, and we are like tiny. So I just knew that a quick way to die fast was to be a rubbish version of them. Okay, so in other words, I just couldn't out athlete Nike. They're the best at athlete, messaging and product. So I knew I couldn't line us up against athletics because I could be maybe 10th, right? So let's try Nike, Adidas, Puma, Reebok, New Balance, Saucony, Mizuno, Under Armour. Okay, there's 8. Converse, Vans is 10. All right. So without even trying, if I crushed it, I could be 11th. Okay, so right away I'm like, that's not good. So what had happened is, if you followed the sneaker industry, Adidas had actually sort of pivoted. So Adidas was always the perennial number 2. If you follow the industry, it was always Adidas was kind of like, well, they're the number 2 brand after Nike in sports. So if Nike had the number 1 runner, Adidas had the number 2 runner. And I think they got fed up with that and said, hold on a minute, there's these entertainers and rappers that are becoming way more influential to young people than athletes. So they pivoted and lined up with Kanye, Pharrell, 2 Chainz, okay? And they stole a ton of energy from Nike. There was a period over the past 5 years where Adidas really started to take over. And it was by sort of shifting to this new zone. Well, I knew also I couldn't out-rapper Adidas, right? There's no budget I could have that could sign a bigger guy. And by the way, while Nike was number one athletic brand. Under Armour was really there most in terms of pure sport, was probably the one most vying for that position. And in terms of signing celebrities, Puma was number two to Adidas. So Puma had then Rihanna, and you know. So I just thought, well, I can't beat them at that either. So I was looking for a third lane.
Yeah.
And when you look at it, and you look at young people today, and when you really analyze what's going on, and you don't follow the conventional wisdom of your industry. So the conventional wisdom of sneakers is sneakers plus athlete equals marketing, right? That is the old formula of the sneaker business. Well, we realized that actually young people's aspirations have shifted. So people aren't trying to play for the Yankees anymore. People are trying to run their own businesses and brands. And in fact, we're not trying to be Derek Jeter. We're trying to be Mark Zuckerberg. And when you think about it, you're like, wait a minute, that's really true. And there's not many people I've said this to that have gone, nah, I don't think that's true. Everyone's like, yeah, that's absolutely right. So, it went from, Michael Jordan used to be the pinnacle of success, and then it became Steve Jobs. Right? Well, hold on a minute. That's a major shift, right? So I think we recognized that the aspiration of young people had shifted to entrepreneurship. People wanted to be successful, rich, creative, influential, and there were some new faces and there was a new lane. So we came out and said, hey, we make sneakers for CEOs. And when I talk about a CEO, I'm not talking about an old white guy in a suit. I'm talking about an 18-year-old female who started a cosmetics brand in New York, or, I'm showing a new face. We showed a guy called Anwar Carrots, African-American guy who runs a fashion brand downtown LA, and said sneakers for CEOs, and it was him. And everyone was like, that's a CEO? And I'm like, that's what a CEO is now. So it was really different, right? So it was all about finding an open lane and being able to be the first at something. And I always say, if you can't be first, be different, because otherwise you're just going to be 11th, even if you nail it. And no one wants to be 11th. So I could be the first at this. So we lined up with this idea of sneakers for CEOs or sneakers for entrepreneurs.
When did you get this idea?
This is going back this is going back at least 4 years.
Okay, so 2016.
Yeah, around there.
When you first became the president.
Yeah, exactly. Right? Maybe just before then, when I was in marketing. And I just really believed, I was like, I'm all in on that. I know this is right, And by the way, look at everybody here, right? We're not gone somewhere to we're not gone to batting practice at a batting cage. Yeah. We're here to build our businesses and our brands. This is total, validation of the point of view, right? So then I was like, okay, who's my Jordan? And I was looking for I need someone who is a real entrepreneur, who's really popular, and they have to be someone that young people want to look like, because this is the fashion business. So there's a cool factor, which is really important, whether you like it or not. We all want to be, cooler than we really are. And I just couldn't come up with anyone. There was no one. I mean, the guy I really thought was the best fit was Pharrell, because he's really cool and he's really smart. And but he just signed a deal with Adidas. So anyway, the more and more I searched, the more all roads pointed to Gary Vee. And in the end, I realized hey, he's the guy. And so I just DM'd him, to be honest. And this is going back. He had 600,000 followers. Now he has, I think, 7 million or something.
Millions.
Yeah.
8
million. Yeah, 600,000. This is not that many years ago.
Yeah.
And said, hey, how about we make the first signature sneaker for an entrepreneur? Almost tongue-in-cheek, right? Because the pedestal product in our industry was the Jordan. It was an athlete's signature on a sneaker. And I was like, man, that would really twist people, to be like, wait, you did what? And it was a bit tongue-in-cheek, but you got to do something really that makes people swerve around and be like, you did what? And then he wrote back right away, just wrote me back with a smiley face. And then his people, one of his assistants called me and said, let's meet. And I said, great. We arranged a meeting. He was coming to LA. We arranged a meeting for coffee. And then they wrote to me and said, hey, just FYI, someone's going to be filming the meeting, just so you're aware of that. I thought, that's a bit weird, but okay. Yeah. That was D-Rock. And you can see that original meeting on one of the episodes of the Daily V. Yeah.
Wow.
You could see that original meeting was on his film. And And that was the start of this. And we ended up making the first signature sneaker for an entrepreneur. It was the Gary Vee 001. And we sold 5,000 pairs in an hour.
Wow.
So
That's
it proved the concept, but more importantly, it was validation that if you come with something that's different and unique, you could have much more impact than if you're the 11th brand to sort of say, hey, we do like really good running sneakers. And I sort of evolved it to say like, hey, listen, if you want to be the fastest, and I say this to a lot of people, if you want to be the fastest runner, you should go listen to Nike. Like, I've got nothing for you. Okay, if you want to be a rapper or be like a celebrity, you should go listen to Adidas or wear Adidas, cool kids at the party. But if you want to be an entrepreneur or be the boss, then you should listen to us because we make shoes for you. And that's the choice. I've got one fan there at least.
yeah.
But, right, I mean, so then it's clear.
Yeah.
You decide what you're trying to do. And I just really believe that this generation is more lined up to what I'm saying. Like, why are we talking to everyone here about who can run the fastest? Does anyone give a shit about that at this point? No. You're trying to make it. You're like, how do I make an impact? How do I have one life and make the most of it? How do I get my ideas out there? All these things are being thought. No one's thinking like, how do I dunk?
Yeah. And then how long did it take? So you had that meeting with Gary. Then what? After he was on board, like, how long did it take?
Yeah, well, it takes, product development takes a lot of time. You can print a T-shirt tonight and it could be out tomorrow. And people are doing that right now. Like a meme stuff is super fast.
Right.
Because an idea can be turned into product really quickly. And with footwear, it takes a lot longer.
Yeah.
Footwear has a long development cycle, so it takes some time. But we basically took an existing shoe and did colors and materials, which are a little quicker. So I don't know, it probably took about 6 months from that original meeting to have something coming out.
Yeah.
I think it took a lot longer probably to convince the company that this was the right path to follow.
Were they against it at first?
I would say that, one really important lesson I learned is that talk is cheap and, you've got to show people something. This is probably one of the big things if you said to me, like, what could I do differently if I went back, it was that, I was talking about this. Like, I would say to people, like, I'm telling you, this entrepreneurship is this is the movement, this is the culture. And everybody would be like, yeah, okay, good. And then they just go back to the desk and do the same thing. And I'd say, no, seriously, like, this is going to be massive. And Gary Vee's a huge guy. And they're like, Gary who? And I'm like, trust me. And everyone would be like, yeah, no, it sounds really great. And then they go back to the desk and do the same job.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't until we had the shoe and we did a launch event and we launched it at a shoe palace on Melrose Avenue.
Mm-hmm.
And we launched that first shoe at that first event, and it was I think it was at 7:00, and the whole team went to set everything up, and about 2,000 people showed up.
2,000.
Yeah, it was crazy. It was like
wow.
People both ways down the block, crazy. And Gary was signing autographs. We sold out of all the shoes. They sold out of K-Swiss. They sold out of K-Swiss at their Hollywood location.
Wow.
The Gary signed people's shoes and met people till 11:00. So even the store shut down, he stood outside the locked doors of the store and kept signing until everyone was satisfied. If you know Gary, that's what he does.
It's amazing.
And that's why he has a following. He's really does that. And the next day, everybody came to work different.
Really?
Yeah, because everybody saw it. It's like you can tell people stuff through your blue in the face.
Yeah.
But when they see it with their own eyes, they're like, okay, now I get it. They're like, this guy, holy shit, I didn't know this guy had that kind of pull. And like, we sold how many pairs and like, what just happened? And people were freaked out. And I could see it in people's eyes the next day they believed.
And you were the original, that was your concept that you wanted to pursue.
Actually, I got really good friends at an agency called Vice.
Okay.
So I used to back in my old days, I worked at Puma in Boston, and I used to advertise in Vice magazine. People know Vice magazine, Vice Media. Back then it was just a magazine. I knew those guys, so I had them come in, and I was working with Vice on brand strategy. And I think the actual kernel of the idea of entrepreneurship came from a guy called Spencer Bain at Vice. And I remember him saying it, actually, and I just said, nah, it's not good. Nah, I don't like it, because he was like, what about entrepreneurship? That seems to be really hot. And I said, how can you make a sneaker for entrepreneurs? Because what are you going to do? Like, who can run faster to the fax machine? That shows how old I am. And I was like, nah, that's not going to work. And then I sort of went home and I thought about it. I'm like, oh, God, that's brilliant. So I think the idea came from him. But, again, the ideas are really easy.
Yeah.
Execution, bringing stuff into life through a company into the world is so difficult these days. Especially even if you have a great company that produces a great product, to get anyone to even know about it is so hard. As you guys probably all know, you're probably fighting with this every day. It's how do you get heard? How do you get your idea heard?
Yeah.
So difficult. So I think having Gary part of it was the megaphone. That's the beauty of it, is he was the voice, and he just pushing, and then it just really took off. And I think it was definitely got us back into the conversation. It got us noticed again. And this is, this is about attention. How do you get people's attention? And you've got to do something unique. That's it. I mean, the human brain is wired to respond to interesting things that teach you something new, and your brain is designed functionally to ignore the mundane. So you got to really think about that all the time. That's hard.
So the Gary Vee happens. You hit a home run basically, and everything that you envisioned pretty much happened that evening, right?
Yeah.
So what happened next? You have this momentum. How did you keep it going?
So well, then you've got believers in the company now who are like, okay, now we're listening, and again, if I could have done something different, I'd have gone back and done an event or something tangible way earlier. I probably was a year before that happened. So for a year, I was just talking and everyone was nodding and nothing was really changing. But then,
okay.
Yeah.
So you're like, I wonder if this will really work.
Yeah, so there's a lot of things written about the first 90 days. There's such an old book called The First 90 Days. You go into a new situation, it's like you got to go in and make an impact early or show them something. Don't tell people what you're going to do. Show them. Even if you could just show them a little taste or a nugget or something tangible, really important to get believers. So if you're trying to get investors, employees, business partners, whoever your parents are trying to believe, you could talk all day long, but try and show them something, a product sketch, a customer order, a press review, something, and then they'll be like, okay, now I believe you. So after that, it was a lot easier to get the momentum going.
Yeah.
And then you've just got to be kind of relentless with now that the world is changing, so that you now have to, one hit is not enough. You've got to kind of bang, 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 bang. You've got to feed the beast, right? So you've got to tailor your approach to the way the market is consuming information, which is daily. So you've got to take one story now and split it into 20 pieces. Okay, so then it's just about having a cadence and a rhythm and a newness and messaging, and so you can do that now. So you can take one event and split it into 20 pieces of content. I don't need to tell you. You guys know more about this than I do, but right? I mean, that's so you start to apply all those things. And at the same time, you can have one thing that's working that's kind of like your, this shining piece of eye candy, but I have a business to run, $100 million business, the ship that's got to be taken. The Gary Vee stuff financially is not that big of a deal.
Yeah.
I mean, marketing and brand wise is everything.
Right.
But financially, it's not that big. I mean, it's great. It could be a little business on its own, but it's a $100 million global brand. And so you got to fix all this stuff too. So the other thing is, this is like one little blip in the kind of trying to run the ship. So I think my focus was also on how do I fix the rest of the business. But certainly good to have people talking about the brand again.
Right. And even though it was successful, I'm sure before the event, there were many challenges that you had to overcome. Was there ever a big challenge where you were like, oh, shoot, I don't know how I'm going to overcome this, because it's such a big curveball?
Yeah, I mean, I think I have those all the time, to be honest.
Like, what was your worst one, if you can tell one
Um,
challenge during that phase of pre-launch?
well, I think, one of the biggest things is just really, when you take a swinger like that, it's like believing it in yourself. You got to convince. You got a lot of people you got to convince, and a business you got responsibility for, and everybody's kind of relying on you. It's on your shoulders. I'm taking the brand this way, and it's not a traditional way, and so the fear is that it works. I mean, that's pretty. Anyone who's launched a product is like, is it going to sell? Because real quick if something works or not.
Mhm.
And if it doesn't, you've got to really pivot fast and react. So anytime we launch a product into retail, it's a lot of fear around whether it works. Now, we've had a lot of things that didn't work. Okay. And that puts you in a real financial bind.
Yeah.
Because you get people send product back. So now you didn't make the money you forecast, and you've now got inventory that's less value than it was going to be at retail, and all the issues around that. So, yeah, I mean, we've had a lot of challenges. I think it's hard to retain really good talent when you're in a struggling business. That's been a big challenge. Is kind of keeping people motivated. And especially these days, unemployment is low, so people have job opportunities, and the expectations are really high. People are like, am I getting more money for doing the same job the same way? Am I getting more money? That happens a lot. It's like the expectations of people are way above. Like, people forgot that you got to kick ass at your job and you get the rewards. It's like, I just showed up. Where's the reward? Yeah, it's the participation award, exactly. Because we train our people, we train our kids that way. I got kids. You're amazing. You came in 8th. You're incredible. And I do that. We all do, and then they're in the company like, hey, I sucked. Where's my medal? I showed up.
Yeah.
Where is it? It's hard because someone will pay them.
Yeah.
So retention and motivation of people, especially when you're trying to get, people want to be on a winner. So I think we had some really good energy with the Gary Vee thing that helped. People came to work for us because of that. But ultimately, you've got to. It's your responsibility, I think, when you're a business leader, to drive results, because that's what motivates everybody. Mm-hmm. And we've actually managed to improve our situation every year since I took over. In terms of profitability, it's been quite significant growth.
Yeah.
But it's been without hardly any organic consumer demand. It's been blood, sweat, and tears. It's been looking at things like pricing. Here's a really interesting one. Early on, one of my best sales guys was traveling to see an account, and they were over somewhere in Tennessee or somewhere like that. And the night before, they went out to the store, but they were going to meet the buyers from the shoe chain. And so the night before, they went into the mall to go into the store to kind of see what was going on. Mm-hmm. And then it called me and said, "We're screwed." No, it didn't say screwed. It said a ruder word.
Yeah.
Which you could imagine, right? And that was the first 2 words of the phone call. "We're screwed." And I'm like, what are you talking about?
Uh-huh.
I'm standing in the store, and our shoes are on the shelf, and they're the same price as Adidas. And how are we going to win if we have the same shoe as one of the most powerful brands in the world and the price is the same? Who's going to be like, I think I'm going to go with that one today, right? Mm-hmm. And I was like, we are screwed. He's right, But I thought that's totally valid. So if you're not, and first of all, I thought it took somebody in a store calling me to say, I'm standing here looking at it. This is clearly a bad plan for me to realize it was happening. So first of all, I'm like, man, you've got to be constantly observing what's going on in reality in the market in terms of pricing, competition, what other brands are doing, what your competition's doing. And then when somebody sees that and says it, you've got to react. Okay, so we realized, shit, we're never going to win if we go head to head with these powerful brands. So we just realized there was a price zone underneath, and we just sat lower. We started to we created if everybody was at $80, we said, hey, our kill zone's at 60, and we started developing product at 60, and it grew our business. And that was a big strategy of ours of product development, selling, different retail approach. So quite a significant shift based on one phone call from one guy in one store that called up and said, I'm looking at two shoes and the prices are the same.
Was this
And it
before
probably
you had the
saved us.
Gary V's?
Yeah, it was before the Gary V's, yeah. And it probably saved us looking back, you know. And so sometimes, you know, the other thing is you could sit in your office and you've got to be out there and understanding what's really going on, because you know damn well whoever you're competing against is on this stuff. If you're not, they are. And man, you've got to be vigilant and constantly looking. And that taught me that lesson.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, from a consumer perspective, I was watching Gary Vee when I was in college, and when I saw him sign with K-Swiss, I immediately became a fan, because just watching his journey, I was like, wow, this guy's hustling, pursuing his dream. But then you look at like other brands, no one's associating themselves to entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
So when you did, I became a fan. And what's amazing is I love how your company is all about entrepreneurship. Like I saw it in the office when I was there last week, meeting like Omar, for example. I saw the energy. Everyone's very like upbeat, and I love how you engage with everyone. Like on your website, you film videos of creating shoes, and you show everything. You're very transparent.
We created a weekly show on YouTube called Inside K-Swiss. We filmed a little documentary of what we're doing. We film a podcast every week called K-Swiss Live, where usually me and Omar on our K-Swiss Instagram, we'll do a live session on Fridays on what's happening this week. You know, we'll talk about, sometimes we don't even talk about K-Swiss, but and there's a reason for that. So it's not just like, oh, let's have some fun. It's about brand transparency, which I believe is so critical these days. So nowadays people want to know, hey, if I'm going to give you my money, like, who are you? It's not this old faceless corporation anymore of some big grey building, and we just like, you know, give us a slogan and you can have my paycheck. People are like, no, I want to know who you are and what are your values, and before I commit to you and buy into this brand, they want to know. So we tell them, hey man, you come listen to us. We'll tell you what we're doing. And you know, Thomas wrote to me. I can't remember how you reached out to me.
A year ago on Instagram.
Yeah. But then more recently was like, hey, I'm around. I said, come to the office. We weren't.
This is Tuesday.
This is Tuesday. It wasn't like to sell me anything.
No.
He just said, I'm in town. I'm like, come through. I'll tour you. We can tour. Like, you come to our office, man. There's like fun. Yeah. Sneakers everywhere. We have a podcast studio. So that was a genuine, like, just come through and see us, right? I mean, if the more consumers that come in and vibe with the brand, the better for us. Mm-hmm. Well, we walk out of that meeting. He's got me signed up to come here, and we now have a proposal for his services through Sapphire. So, hell of a sales guy. Yeah, I mean, maybe that was his intention originally. I just didn't realize it, but... Did you give him any stickers? Huh? Yes, actually. We do. We're so I don't know if any of you guys know, but Thomas is actually a pretty good tennis player, and he wears Nikes. Did you see Nike come here to your event? Did you go to Nike's? Did they invite you to their office?
Nope.
All right. Well, now you can wear K-Swiss tennis shoes.
Open it up. All right, I'll open it up.
This is actually a new shoe. This is actually a real tennis shoe. It's called the Hypercourt Supreme. Yeah, that's a real performance tennis shoe. In fact, Cameron Norrie, who's one of the top 50 tennis players in the world, wears exactly those right now. British guy. But yeah, those are for you to play tennis in.
Thank you so much. I also have a cool story to share. So I have this letter that you sent to my house. Lexi's got it. Really? I don't know if you remember, but you sent this to me a few months ago. If you can, do you remember this? Read
yeah, of course. Yeah, I don't remember what I wrote. So it wrote, "One day I'll make it to your event, Barney."
So this is that day. So when you sent it to me, awesome. I put it in my room. I framed it because I really respect the brand, and I really think you're giving entrepreneurs a voice and an opportunity, because as a shoe brand, we all know that you're going up against the greats, Nikes, Adidas, but you found a lane and it's working, and it's helping other people too. Like myself, like I was inspired by the whole process, and like with you doing this, it meant a lot to me, because if you guys are familiar with big executives, you go to an event, you talk to them, but do they really follow up? In my case, no. So when Barney sent me this, it meant a lot, and that's how I became like a bigger fan because
Thank
of
you. I
that. So
appreciate that.
this is in my room.
Yeah, thank you. And listen, when you're a business that's trying to fight for survival and to be and a challenger brand, you've got to treat customers. Every person you meet's a customer, and I think when you lose that, you lose a bit of direction of what you're trying to do. And the other thing is, I think this idea of K-Swiss's platform being about inspiring entrepreneurs is a way bigger purpose than making sneakers. And again, anyone who's into this area know this is not my idea. This is, the Starts With Why. It's one of the most famous speeches from Simon Sinek about brand purpose, and it's the one that got me going on that. So if you haven't seen that, you should go look it up. Starts With Why, and it's about what's the bigger purpose of your brand. And these days, again, consumers want to know what your brand is means, and because the truth is, there's parity in products now. Okay, in other words, everybody has access to cushioning and leather. So the idea is like my sneaker's cushioned, well, mine's really cushioned. You know, to compete on function is like pointless now because they're all the same. Like washing powder gets your whites really white. Well, mine's got even whiter. Okay, that's all established. They all get your stuff really white. Okay, so then why do you pick the one you do? And if it's not on price, it's on that brand meaning something to me. So being a white heritage tennis brand is not something that really floats anybody's emotions. You don't get up in the morning and be like, today I'm going to be a white sneaker heritage 1966 tennis brand. Okay? But people get up and go, man, I'm trying to be an entrepreneur. And if a brand speaks to me about that, like I'm in, I'm listening. So I think that's the key is to try and find purpose for your brand that you can offer a consumer or a customer that's beyond the product. Okay, no one wants to get my rubber compound. Who wants to know what my rubber compound is on these? Nobody. Okay, it doesn't matter. It's not interesting. Okay, but you know, this is actually a shoe that we created, purpose built for entrepreneurs. Okay, so we went to WeWork and interviewed entrepreneurs and said, how do you function? What do you do in a day? And there's specific things in this sneaker that are purpose built for entrepreneurship. You want to know what they are?
Yes.
Okay, see the difference between that story and the rubber compound? Okay, that's because now this thing means something bigger. Because entrepreneurs over-index in travel. Okay, so this has a zipper here, so when I go to TSA, I don't have to take my thing. I can zip on, zip off when I go through the TSA check-in. Okay? And I've really done it in these shoes. I've gone in TSA, I'm like, oh shit, this is really good. Listen, the other thing is under the I don't have pre-check, no, because I can't be bothered to go to LAX. I'm too busy. I'm not going to LAX unless I'm flying. I'm not going there just for a meeting. Okay, so under the now I'm in a sales pitch, but now under the tongue, thank you. Jeez, thank God you guys showed up. Each color is named after one of the attributes of entrepreneurs. Okay, one of the characteristics of entrepreneurs. Okay, so this isn't white colorway, and Omar, and this is brown, and someone else is wearing the black one. This is called self-belief. This is called vision, and this is the black one's called risk. Okay, so and it was like, hey, let's call this real things that people think. And when I was traveling recently, I looked putting my shoes on, and it said self-belief. And I actually, for a split second, was like, yeah, man, you know what? You're doing okay. And I was like, oh my God, it worked. It literally worked on me, and I came up with it. So that's another thing. It's got these little motivational messages in that
Mine
they're
says
called.
vision.
Yeah, because if someone's really speaking to you about your situation, yours is vision, right? So maybe
Yeah.
you look at that and go, just reminds you to be like, fuck, I've got to think bigger. Don't just show up and like chisel at the rock every day. Like, what am I trying to achieve here? Or when someone looks at the thing that says risk, they're like, yeah, man, am I making big moves? That's one of the big things as a leader of the company I'm thinking is, am I thinking big enough? That's probably one of the big things that keeps me up at night. Am I thinking big enough? Because you know damn well that the leaders of other sneaker brands are thinking really big. So am I just showing up and like banging out the normal stuff, or am I like, where's this thing going next? Yeah, that's really concerning.
Yeah, yeah. And the other thing that's fascinating is the brand. Just because if you see somebody in a public place, you look at their shoe, if they have the Gary Vee or one of these, it's an easy
100%.
conversation
Right,
starter.
100%. Like these guys wearing, he got the crushing it.
Yeah,
Oh, that's,
Gary
no,
Vee.
that's the Jin K, black with the brown leather. These are the Clouds and Dirt. The guy back there's got the Jupiters. If I see you wearing the Clouds and Dirt in an airport, someone's going to come up to you and be like, oh shit, you got the Gary Vee K-Swiss.
Yeah.
And I know right now you're an entrepreneur because you're wearing them. In the same way, if I see you and you're wearing Under Armour, you're probably going to the gym. Okay, so or you think you're going to the gym, right? And I love that I might wear basketball shoes and go and like play 3-on-3 and be terrible, shoot 0 for 20.
Yeah.
But I think I'm Kevin Durant. Okay,
Yeah.
you might wear the sneakers and just make 3 T-shirts and sell them on Instagram and think you're Gary Vee. That's cool too.
Yeah.
So. But when that shield of K-Swiss means something, when I see you wearing it and go, I know something about you, that's when you've won. And I'm not sure, we're definitely not there yet, but it's the same way that you see certain labels on people, you're like, I know a little bit about them. Someone's wearing Supreme, okay, I know what you're into.
Yeah.
I know what you're reading, I know who you like, I know what music you listen to, I know everything about you just on that one little box.
Yeah. It's interesting. Now, I have a question that's advice related. What advice would you give to people who are struggling with their passion? They're working hard, but they're not making progress.
Yeah, passion's so. I think I've been really lucky to have been able to do something I'm passionate about and something that pays my bills. Okay, so it's easy for me to sit up here and say, don't chase money, chase your passion, which is what my advice would be. But if you're broke, that's a really difficult message to hear. Okay, and I'm not broke, so I'm not loaded, but I've always earned. But I earned money from when I was 18 till now. Like, never missed a paycheck ever. Like, I worked my ass off my whole life, every day, every day, every day, every day, every day. Okay, never killed it, but just like, so like nothing's for free. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, but I think that you've got to try. People are so much happier if they're doing something they really believe in that's important to them. I was actually, before I was in the sneaker business, I was in the software business. I worked for Lotus. If anyone remembers Lotus 123, Lotus Notes, yeah. I came from England. I worked for them in England. Amazing company, incredible company. And I moved to 23 years old. I came to the headquarters in Cambridge, Massachusetts to work for Lotus. Amazing career experience, great company. But technology was just not my bag. I could give a shit about tech, to be quite honest with you. And it was so fun, but eventually I'm like, this just isn't me. And I was miserable. And I went to work for Puma. I got a job opportunity at Puma. Oh my God. I mean, talk about luck to go work at a company that was doing sports, fashion, sneakers. It was like just a dream come true. And I was able to then be so I've been in a company where I just was not into it. And I was getting paid nice money and I was miserable. So there's a lot of people that are pursuing money. Okay, I know people that are like, I don't care what I do, just give me the bag, give me the check. That is such a flawed mentality. There's a lot of broke people who are happy. There's a lot of rich people who are miserable. And if you can combine the two, that's really the key. And so I think if you're early in your career, like for me, it's hard once you've got kids, mortgage, to be like, I'm just going to pursue my passion. My wife's like, really? Not an option. Once you get too locked in, get too far down the road, it's hard. So when you're young, it's like, don't chase the money. There's this cliche about the journey is the destination, but it is about the journey. That we do this because it's fun to be hustling and to be in the mix and I love being on challenger brands. Like, I'm best when I think someone's trying to get me. I will run through a wall. I will, you know what I mean? Like, if I think someone's sitting there going, I'm going to get Barney, I'm like, oh, you ain't, I'm going to get you. Like, I'm at my best. Like, I'll invent adversaries to motivate myself. I bet they think I suck.
Yeah.
So, look at all the people. Like, if being rich was great, why does Warren Buffett still go to work? He enjoys it. Like, he's already won, but he's still in the hustle. Like, Gary Vee doesn't need any more money, but he enjoys the journey. So if you're waiting to get paid, that's the payoff. Like, this is it.
Yeah.
What we do every day is like, it never comes. Like, I'm telling you, my career, you could make a ton of money and win the lottery, okay, but that's like 1 in a million. But it's like the carrot that's on the stick, right? The chance is always like my whole career. It's what I'm chasing has always stayed in front of me.
Mm-hmm.
So if you don't enjoy the process of the journey, then you're just wasting your time. So be in something that really means something to you. Luckily, the sneaker business inspires me. It's motivating. I love it. It's great. The people are cool. And that's all I would just encourage you to say, does this make make my heart sing? As there's a great book called Talk Like TED, which is about how to give a great TED presentation. This is what makes your heart sing, try and focus on that.
I like it. I like the
It's
advice.
a little cliche, but
I-
it is the truth.
Yeah. Before I open it up, I have a question on like your hustle. What is your best hustle story that you can share?
Oh, in terms of like hard work?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, goodness. I mean, I've been a hard worker my whole life. I used to go wash cars when I was a kid, and um, I don't know where I get that from. And I would work actually at clay pigeon shooting. Pull, and you set the clays off. I would be up a tree, setting the clays off for guys shooting. I've done every job. I worked at the supermarket in the fish counter. I could actually fillet a trout if you give me a sharp knife. I've done all sorts of jobs and always did. I don't know really where that came from.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's because I had anxiety, and still do, and I think people who are anxious are always like, what's going to happen tomorrow if the world, like anxiety gives you this drive to like, I think it's actually been a bit of a superpower. I would never wish it on anyone, but part of me thinks like, man, actually that's kept me, the wheels turning. That's an anxious person. Is the wheels are always turning, and what happens, what's in the future. That's not a bad, to get a little tiny bit of that's actually quite good. So, my work ethic and my drive's always been there, but I think it's sort of come from a place of desperation. I work every day. I'm like, how am I going to pay my bills? How am I going to, what happens in my future? I show up. You ask my wife, she says like, I can't believe that you go to work every day like you got to prove yourself that day. And it's true. I do. I go to work every day. I never act like I made it. Like I'm good. I got this. I'm like, what am I going to do today? Make sure they know I'm great. And that's not always comfortable.
Yeah. This is a question for the audience. My question to you guys is, raise your hand if you're out there starting your own business, but you have like a major challenge. You feel kind of stuck. All right. I'm going to pick one person. We're just going to try to help
Okay.
as many people as we can. So I can't really see because the light's super bright. Could you keep your hand up? Here you go.
Hi, yeah, sure. Hi, my name's Taylor Casino. So I recently launched a business about 4 months ago. So we're a creative agency here in LA. We do content creation and social media management. And we do really good work, but we don't have any big brands under our belt.
Yeah.
So how do you kind of break the ice with big names and things like that to get to the next level?
Yeah, good point. Because if you come to me, for example, and as a agency, like, oh my god, I get so many agencies hit me up, all the time. Hey, I'm a creative agency, and I do social media marketing all the time. All right, so it's hard to break through because there's a lot of people do that. I think the number one thing for me that would get me interested is if you worked with or had experience in my industry. So if you said we're working currently with X and it was an industry respected brand, yeah, exactly, reference brands, and you already know that you need that. That's the premise of your question. So at least you understand that. So if you're aiming for a specific industry, which may not be a bad idea, is to hone in and be sharp. Okay, trying to be this is to hone in and be more pointy. And then you want a reference account in the industry is you offer somebody something for free. Okay, so now, hey, I want to let me prove what I can do, or I'm going to take on a project and I'm going to work on spec, or I'm going to work for free, or or some kind of way of really enticing somebody to take a chance on you. So, and the payoff for you is that logo on your customer list, which would open a lot of doors if you pick the right industry.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome.
And then my advice is, well, hustle. I would find the brands that you want to work with. If they're speaking at an event, I would look for the VIP. I would just walk in there. I used to do that a lot, and that's how we work with the largest brands today. Like in the beginning, when I had no credibility, I was just a kid with a hat from Chicago, no experience. But when I saw speakers like people like Barney, I would find out like if there was a VIP event, I would just like follow people. And if they're like, "Hey, like, what are you doing here?" I'm like, "Oh, I'm just a photographer." "Hey, I'm just the assistant to somebody." I'm serious. I did it, and I recommend you do that too because you need friends to help you out. And if you're kind to people at these events, like they're gonna support you and they're gonna be like, "Hey, I want you to come into my office and share what you're about." And
Yeah,
who knows what can
yeah, it's a
happen.
good point. So a great idea is to find somebody who works there and build a relationship. And the relationship's not like a cold LinkedIn email. I get so many cold sales pitches on LinkedIn, like it's an instant delete. But if you can build a relationship based on value, that's the way in. Thomas, I probably saw you 3, 4 times before he even asked me, and he didn't really. He kind of like, as I told you earlier, he kind of worked his way around to get a proposal in front of me. I didn't even realize he was doing it, but he didn't sell me anything for the first 4 times. Okay, so then I'm like, my guard is down. You kind of sell me something the first time we meet, I'm like, oh god, another. Like, ugh. So so building those relationships, and you can build a relationship based on really liking the brand. Someone goes like, man, I love K Swiss. Oh, I love, and I saw what you did with this, and I just got that shoe the other. I'm like, you're already my friend. Like, people want you to be passionate about their brand. So if you do that pre-work and build a relationship based on the premise of really feeling somebody's brand and being able to have that conversation, that's a great way in. No one, giving something for free is a tough one because like, if I work my tail off and I really value what I do, I don't want to give it away for free, right? So if people are thinking that, I don't disagree with that. There's a valid point. There's a great story of this female I met called, and I can't remember her name, but her brand is called Hedley and Bennett. It's a aprons for chefs, and it has a little and sign called Hedley and Bennett, and she has a great business with these really cool chef. All the best chefs in the world wear Hedley and Bennett aprons, right? And she said that she wanted to be a chef, so she looked up the best restaurant in town, like who's the 3-star, whatever you call it, Michelin restaurant. And there was one in LA, I can't remember the name of it. She went there, she went round the back, and she's Mexican. She went round the back, she went to the back door where the kitchen was and poked her head in the kitchen and spoke to the line chefs and said, "Who's the boss?"
Yeah.
And that guy, and they said, "I'll work on the end of the line for free."
Yeah.
And he all right, come in, and she worked at the end of the line for free and worked her way up and became a chef. And man, I love that story. It takes things like that to get yourself going.
Yeah, I just love this hustle stuff. I actually have an interesting story. So, Sam, where are you at? Sam, are you in here? So, Sam, I met him at CES last year. I was in Vegas. I went to an event by myself. All these executives were there. No one talked to me. They all kind of ignored me. They kind of looked at me like, "Oh, what are you doing here?" Sam took me in at the dinner. He invited me to sit next to him, and I had no idea who he was sitting next to. And he was introducing me to like all the biggest CEOs of the biggest marketing agencies, and I was just like, whoa. But when I connected with Sam, it was just like we connected as people. We're just like, what are you passionate about? Like, where are you from? It wasn't about work. And now it's been a year, and we are really good friends.
You're about to hit him with a proposal.
No. So
Sam, I know how this goes.
So he has introduced me to like the biggest CEOs of, like, for example, the other day, Media Monk. Have you guys heard of them? I was talking to the founder of the company, and I just like couldn't believe that these people are just they're humans, just building relationships. Like that's the best piece of advice. So yeah, that's Sam back there.
Way to go, Sam.
Eddie, what's your question?
On your first round with Gary Vee, was that 5,000 shoes that fit your MOQ? I mean, did you guys take a big loss on that?
No, actually, this is coming from the Mr. Manufacturing over there who I met in the icebreaker.
Oh.
God,
He just sat next to me, didn't even ask if the seat was taken.
Yeah, I'm glad I sat next to you. Oh, goodness, it's amazing. Yeah, no, that was our MOQs on footwear about 1,200 pairs. So that's
What's
that's
MOQ?
it's a minimum order quantity. So if you want to run something down a factory line, there's a certain volume you've got to do to kind of for the economics to work, and no factory wants to go through all the set everything up for 50 pairs. So. Yeah, we did 5,000 pairs right off the bat. Now, limited sneakers will sell fast. That's kind of a formula these days. But bear in mind, Gary Vee's a 40-year-old man from New Jersey. Okay, it's not Ariana Grande or, you know. So it was pretty amazing, and it proved. He was so confident. By the way, should have done 10,000. So confident, and he was right. For something that's brand building is, it's like a bit of a lost leader. That premise is sometimes you do things to get attention and be disruptive that don't. You make your money. I always tell this like super old school story of the red convertibles on the forecourt, and it attracts people in. They buy the station wagon. So it's the same thing. Is we'll spend a lot of money on that, and they'll come in and buy the white classic sneaker.
What's the best way to contact you?
Well, yeah, yeah. Please don't always try and sell me stuff.
Don't sell Barney
I'm
stuff.
on LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn for sure. I'm on LinkedIn. I don't contribute a lot of content on LinkedIn. I'm on there, and I'm quite active on there. I'm on Instagram a lot at Barney Waters. I'm on Instagram. I'm pretty active on Instagram.
What's your Instagram?
At Barney Waters.
Barney Waters. Oh, okay.
Kept it real simple. And yeah, I'm on there all the time. I look at it a lot, and I'm usually pretty responsive for people. Not a lot of people DM me, so feel free.
Now you'll have like 100.
Oh, and by the way, we are going to give away some sneakers. So we said, hey, we've got some of the Gary Vee sneakers that we don't have them with us, but I don't know if there's a way of maybe either the people who ask questions tonight, or is there maybe a way you could find.
Yeah, I can post on Instagram and people
do
can
something
share
like
their
if you follow
story
us or share a story. And the best.
Actually, we'll make an Instagram post and then people can share like maybe what they're most passionate about. Then you can choose from the list of people who commented by
Omar will choose.
Or Omar.
So you can
he can DM
campaign to Omar, and we'll pick like the top 5 or 10 responses, and we'll give you some new sneakers.
Does that sound good, everyone? So.
And listen, I love what you guys have built here. It's such an honor to be part of, to be around positive people who are trying to make themselves better. Oh God, that's so nice, because most people are such cynical people, like, oh, everything sucks. Stay around people who are positive.
Yeah.
Such a big difference. And there was nothing like this when I was in my career. No one gathered together to talk about how can we be better in our careers.
Yeah.
We just went to the pub.
Yeah.
This is amazing. Like the opportunities that are coming out now. So I love what you've built here. Good job to you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Really appreciate it.
Amazing.
If you guys enjoyed it, the Instagram's at Stack and Growth, and if you want to get a hold of me, I'm just at thomas.ma7. So thank you, and I'll see you guys at the next one.